And we're back, everyone, with Game 3 of this best of 5 between Glacial Academy and Rawr. Yordlez here. A very, very short intermission. There have been some changes to the rosters on the blue side. It's going to be Rawr Yordlez this game. No change to their roster, but Glacial Academy on the red side here is going to bring Ronin back here into the mid lane. So SSJ Godfist out, Ronin back in here. And that makes sense to me personally if they're going to continue focusing on that sort of lane-centric playstyle. And we're going to hop right into the picks and bans here for the blue side. The bans are going to be Mordekaiser, Fizz, Ornn, Caitlyn, and J4 here. So interesting changes with that Fizz making it onto the ban list here. And they're going to continue putting King Tyrus off of the Ornn. For Glacial Academy on the red side, they're banning out the Volibear, Vel'Koz, Morgana, Zac, and Yasuo there. So really didn't like seeing I Never Freeze on the Volibear there, and Duero on that Vel'Koz is doing work as well. Now in terms of picks, we're seeing a departure from the norm here with both teams. Rawr Yordlez drafting an interesting composition. They've got the Malphite, Shen, Kai'Sa, Darius, and Master Yi. So that's that's not a Shen, that's a Braum. So it is a Malphite, Braum, Kai'Sa, Darius, Master Yi there. That makes a little bit more sense. So you have the Braum, Kai'Sa bot lane here, that Darius most likely in the top lane, Master Yi in the jungle, and that means most likely we're going to see an AP Malphite from Duero. Not something we normally see, and most likely really just a bit of Yordlez experimenting here with their 2-game lead. They feel comfortable just trying out a couple of different things here. And for the side of Glacial Academy, I kind of like what the thought they sort of put into this. They instantly picked the Veigar here to deny it from Duero, not knowing that Malphite was going to head towards that Duero there in that mid lane. And they actually dropped Veigar and Orianna, and that means Veigar is probably going to be either top lane or support instead, because Rinks is not playing for Glacial Academy, so we won't be seeing an Orianna in that top lane. But then again, Veigar top lane is more of a killer unicorn sort of thing, and that's also not a player here for Glacial Academy. So we'll have to see where that Veigar opts to go. The set Varus and Jax as well, and that's going to be the first Varus we actually see on patch 10.14 here after he's been nerfed. So we'll have to see how that one works out here. The nerfs to Varus actually pretty significant for his poke in the laning phase. Both his hail of arrows as well as the piercing arrows did get nerfed in terms of how much damage they put out here. So we'll have to see if we still see the lethality Varus come out from Azir, or whether we're going to see a on-hit Varus, which is still extremely potent in the mid to late game here. And that is going to be the Veigar support paired with him here. And most likely set jungle or set top, and Jax jungle or Jax top here. So we'll have to see how that one goes. And in terms of that, they're going to be lacking a bit of tankiness. But I think for Glacial Academy, that's not the issue anyways. You need to smash early. We've seen Glacial. They have the potential to just dominate in the early game. And damage is king come mid-game here. As for the side of Yordlez, it's just a mixed bag here. Sure, they've got AoE with the Malphite. They've got AoE with the Braum Winter 07. We saw how good he is with getting those Glacial Fissure engages here. But beyond that, there's very little synergy. Darius just looking to smash lane. I Never Freeze on Master Yi, looking to be opportunistic and just look to skill up. Little risky, but there isn't a ton of on-demand CC from Glacial Academy here. They've got the pool from Set, and they've got the Counter-Strike from Jax, and that's about it. The Event Horizon does give I Never Freeze time to sort of get around, run around in there, and still get the Alpha Strike off. Varus' ultimate as well, not necessarily immediate freezing right away, it takes a bit of time. So I think I Never Freeze actually picked that last pick for his team at a really good point in time, seeing there's not a lot of CC from Glacial Academy. And on the side of Glacial Academy, I'm not sure they necessarily win the laning phase here. I mean, into the Darius, neither Set nor Jax do amazingly well. They do decently, so that is going to be a very balanced lane. We'll have to see how that one goes, because King Tyrus and Mrs. Sarux here. Last game, King Tyrus enjoyed the advantage, but he did have the range ADC matchup. In the mid lane, I think Orianna is going to have a real tough time against the AP Malphite, who can really 100-0 her at level 6 there, especially with the Master Yi coming in to just pile on the damage. And in that bot lane, that Veigar is going to struggle, and Varus as well into the Braum. I'm surprised they picked the Varus into the Braum here, because the Unbreakable is going to nullify a lot of the lane advantages that normally you'd see a Varus sort of bring to the table there. So We're definitely going to see how this one goes, but I am going to give it to Rawr Yordlez here in the laning phase. And my concern is if the Yordlez win their laning phase, well, we saw what happened last game, a 20+ minute game where they just absolutely ran amok all over Glacial Academy there. And we might potentially see another invade once again from Rawr Yordlez. It seems to be their typical modus operandi. They like to group up. They like to look for that level 1. They're very confident in their ability to play that level 1 here. And honestly, if Vigar doesn't pick up the Event Horizon, they do have a stronger level 1, but they do get spotted out in the 0 lane. Starting that hail of arrows there is going to slow them down, and that's going to stop the invade dead in its tracks for now. Just a deep ward here from Winter to just be able to spot out where Perrier is going to be starting. And it is going to be Perrier on that Jax in the jungle, King Tyrus on the set in the top lane there. So, interesting choices. I actually personally do like that because I think Perrier on the Jax in the jungle does have a bit more on-demand CC to help his lanes get better ganks. Set has to sort of run in there and then try and get the pull off, which is fairly short range, so it's a little dicier. But my issue now is that top lane matchup I think is going to be a little rough, and Mr. Saruk's running a Ghost Ignite in that top lane there. I'm liking it. I actually personally think Ghost is actually very strong right now with all the buffs it has received. Increased mobility, lower cooldown than a flash, as well as the on-demand movement speed on the Darius to just run people down. I think it's great. The Ignite as well. Face Breaker with that shield decays extremely quickly, so with the Ignite there, can still find kills after that shield has been popped. And interestingly enough, INeverFui is not running the Ignite and running the Flash on that Master Yi in the jungle. Usually in solo queue, I've seen a lot of Ignite sort of smite Master Yi there. Mr. Saruk has to be careful. He's going all in here. The Ignite already being used, but he's going to go down. Was sat in the middle of a huge minion wave as well. And minions do a lot of damage in the early levels there. So King Tyrus finding himself an early lead there. And with the double rejuve beats as well, should be fairly healthy by the time Mr. Saruk gets back into lane, since he has no teleport, has to actually walk the whole distance. We do see a potential first gank coming down from INeverFui. He might be jumping the gun a little bit though, but King Tyrus walking into him here. Mr. Saruk is still only level 1. He's trying to run back in a good Alpha Strike to dodge out the Face Breaker there. And with the red buff, King Tyrus, he has Flash. He just opted not to use it. And a bit of an interesting choice there. He ends up going down and they answer back the kill there. And it goes over to INeverFui. And that's potentially the worst person you could possibly give it to here on the side of Rawr Yordlez, because he's the hyper skilling Master Yi, the scourge of solo queue here. And I'm sure these players have seen Master Yi just pop up, and now INeverFui's running into the mid lane. He's just going to show up, flash his Master Yi, and not even bother trying to gank Ronin at all here on that Orianna. And so far, Perrier just farming up a storm. He's up about 2 camps here on INeverFui, so just looking to power farm, it looks like, to get some items before he starts looking for ganks here. Has to be careful. Might go down to the Krugs. He's extremely low here. And he is going to go down to Krugs! Oh, Glacial Academy! Looking like they're a little tilted to start this game 3 off here. King Tyrus not flashing in that top lane, and then now Perrier going down to the Krugs. That's a bit of an oof here for the side of Glacial Academy. Not what you want to see in a semi-finals game. And that's going to give time for INeverFui to really try and catch back up in terms of the jungle farm here. Mr. Saruk's once again going aggressively onto King Tyrus. Did have the level lead, but he keeps fighting in the middle of minion waves, and he's getting absolutely punished for it as the Face Breaker just absolutely melts Mr. Saruk's faces off. And King Tyrus looking like he's enjoying, again, a very strong carry lane for himself right now. And if you are the side of Glacial Academy, you are a little bit in the lead. You need to start looking to snowball that. Unfortunately, a lot of that is just sitting in that top lane. And so, I mean, if I were Perrier, I look to gank that top lane. I want a piece of that action up there. I want to find some easy kills and transition that into the other lanes as well. mid lane. We did see the gank come in from I Never Freeze, and it's looking like he's looking for the repeat gank here. But he has to be careful. He might get collapsed on. A good flash to get him away. He dodges out the counter-strike. Pyria flashing after, but Pyria can't find anything for it now. And that's unfortunately a wasted flash here from Pyria. Bot lane, Mazir punishing quite well with that Varus. The exhausts being traded for now. That's both supports using their exhaust here. No kills found in that bot lane, but despite the Varus nerfs, Mazir lane still finding himself a very, very strong advantage. And we do see now the gank from Pyria, a beautiful counter-strike to instantly find Fang Rui, and now they're deep under turret. Mazir has been tanking this one up. Dobby going to be able to find the kill here into the bot lane. They picked themselves up 2 kills in the bot lane, and Glacial Academy, despite the little whoopsie from Pyria, is looking really strong and solid in the early game here. And that's great for them. We're starting to see a return to form here from Glacial Academy. Flash coming up from King Tyrus, but this is the strength of Ghost here. Flash is a one-time deal, whereas Ghost allows you to hunt down, and Mr. Sirux with the Ghost now able to find the kill. Has to be careful though, is taking a lot of minion damage once again. Will be fine this time though. And bot lane, it's Mazir lane having to flash away from I Never Freeze. Pardon me, I Never Freeze looking for that solo gank there. Does burn both summoners and could look for a repeat gank sometime in the near future. But for now, he's going to run over and pick up the Mountain Drake here for themselves. Topside, King Tyrus teleporting right back to lane, able to find and punish Mr. Sirux. Mr. Sirux not respecting the damage and the sort of movement speed buff you get from that teleport here. And this top lane has been incredibly active thus far. Dobby looking to potentially try and look for a steal, but he is a support, doesn't find it. The event horizon just buys time for him to get away for now, and that is going to be the Mountain Drake going the way of Rawr Yordlez, despite them being very, very far down in terms of gold and pressure right now. And normally, the Mountain Drake not really the best of Drakes here for an early Drake, but for Duero it will help him skill up a little bit. And we look to see the engage already, the unstoppable force coming across. He's looking, he'll be able to find Ronan easy here. Flashes traded from both mid laners, and this is the worry. This is the threat that is AP Malphite mid here, and now Winter running away. The arrow unfortunately not going to be able to find him, and that's Winter going to be safe for now. Mazir still looking for himself to get a first kill here. A nice attempt though, and that will force Winter back to base, and that's going to be Fang Rui left on his own for a little bit of time. Pyria now finding I Never Freeze, but he is a level down, and he's taking damage here from the, oh, what is this thing even called here? That big toad, the Grom, pardon me, that's the name. The Grom just pounding away there. I think he might have done a significant amount of damage, almost more than I Never Freeze there. And King Tyrus finding himself yet another kill. Mr. Sirux, I mean, I understand losing the lane, but I don't understand repeatedly bashing your head into a set that has already shown you that he's stronger than you in that 1v1 here. And so that's just going to put Mr. Sirux further and further into a hole here. And I believe this might be one of the few times you actually see King Tyrus finding himself a substantial CS lead in the top lane there in the 1v1. And this is a phenomenon that we've actually not seen here in the Silver League that much. I don't know why we're seeing it in this particular series between Rawr Yordlez and Glacial Academy, where both Pyria and Mr. Sirux, both teams, are tanking a ton of neutral damage here from minions, from jungle creep. You can't underestimate the damage those things put out in the early game. Sure, it's not a Drake, it's not a super minion, it's not a siege minion, but they do add up over time, and if you just stand there and take it, well, you do end up losing a lot of your health, and fights that you should have won, you end up not winning here. And now we do see the engage from Mazir lane. The Varus ultimate comes out. They easily find Winter 07, and Mazir finally finds himself a well-deserved kill here. Pyria has to be careful. He's about to run smack into I Never Freeze, as well as Duero, and Duero's unstoppable force already available. He's gonna look to see if he can find more than one, and he very well could. The ground pound is enough to pick this one up here, and Mazir lane has nowhere to run. Fang Rui gonna be able to pick that one up. And such a promising start from Glacial Academy is now looking a little bit dicey here, as Rawr Yordlez starts unlocking their ultimates, and they're the ones looking to sort of find mid-game leads here. And as unorthodox as it is, my eyes are set on Duero, because AP Malphite mid is actually a terrifying monster. We don't see it that much in the professional play because it's kind of binary and easy to play around. Either he lands the Unstoppable Force and gets kills, or he doesn't. But in this sort of game here, it is very easy for him to find kills, and he's going to find Ronin here. They're going to turn on King Tyrus as well. King Tyrus is managing to find himself the Eye of the Herald, though. That's going to be a bit of a turnaround. Mr. Strokes might have overstayed his welcome a little bit, but it will be fine because Duero picking up the triple kill here. He's 5-0 on the AP Malphite mid. He's got 8 stacks on the Dark Seal, and that is one of the scariest things you could potentially see. A snowballing AP Malphite mid. It's like a nuclear bomb going off when he finds those unstoppable forces here. And he's sitting on 2,500 gold, has quite a bit of nest egg to go spend when he goes back to base. Could look to just flat out complete that Luden's Echo, or maybe just look to build Sork Boots here for a bit more mobility to transfer his leads into some of the other lanes. And Winter 07 is taking a lot of damage. Has to be careful. Primordial Burst comes out. There is no counterplay to that. The Unbreakable is already down, but Fangrui landing the W. Can he follow up here? He's too far away, could not out in. Instead, it's going to be Duero just walking in, throwing that shard down. He finds another kill. No unstoppable force this time available for him, but it's going to be I Never Freeze just running in, looking for the tank here. And the Varus ultimate going to stop for now. Can he find Duero, who's super low and carrying a 600 gold bounty? No, he can't. They find 2 kills here. And that's some more kills for Rawr Yordlez. Herald is dropped to the top side. King Tyrus looking to try and find the first turret of the game for himself there to try and even up the gold score. And mid lane, Ronin just pushing in and just shoving in those minions as well. Will pick up quite a bit of CS, but will still be down from Duero and has to be careful there. Top side, King Tyrus actually dives at turret and finds Mr. Sarux, who's now 1-5-2 here. And we've got actually an interesting situation where Glacial Academy is in the jungle of Rawr Yordlez, and they actually have a number advantage. They could look to turn this one. King Tyrus able to find that top lane turret, but Duero is on the prowl. Can you smell what the rock is cooking? Duero going in, the shard finds him, and he goes godlike right now. And from a numbers advantage, it's now a 2v2. Is Duero going to engage this one? He has the unstoppable force. He's going to go in just as the shield wears off. Glacial Fissure full away. It's a double kill. Command Shockwave finds Sue, but there's no damage there. And apparently the Rock was cooking up a double kill here. Fangrui going back in. He finds Dobby 007 a bit over aggressive under the turret, but it is going to be Mazir picking up the bounty that he just found there. Can he get out there? I Never Freeze going in, is popping the ultimate. He's fast. He's just whipping those blades around. And I Never Freeze finding another kill. It's an absolute bloodfest in this one. 25 minutes and 13 kills, and this pace is set to keep on accelerating here because there's so many just kill-focused champions on both teams right now. And Duero just an absolute beast. 8-0-1 right now. King Tyrus was sort of matching him in terms of damage or in terms of kills and influence, but he's starting to fall behind right now. And I was wondering, what was he going to go back to base and buy? Was it the Ludens or the Sork Boots? Well, he bought both because he's rich enough. And now we do see the Dragon coming out, although Mr. Sork just barely surviving that one here. Almost did go down there. The Ignite comes across, but no Noxian Guillotine to follow. He's going to go down. Thankfully for him, the rest of the team is able to carry his weight as they find themselves a turret into the bot lane there. And they picked themselves up the Inferno. I was just trying to say that before the fight broke up top side as well. So Duero going to have increased burst from both the Mountain and the Inferno Drake here. That's going to be absolutely massive for him. And now Duero and King Tyrus finally going to face off the respectively most fed members of their team here. Or not, because King Tyrus is going to back out instead. And they're going to gift those minions over to Mr. Sarux, who kind of needs it in that top side right now. He's 1-6-2. He's a full, about more than 50% of his team's deaths right now. So it does need to be careful. Instead, they're going to send Duero into the mid lane because there's a whole bunch of squishies, and there's nothing that an AP Malphite likes more than squishies. A beautiful Event Horizon catches too, and the combined burst manages to instantly pop them there. A beautiful command shockwave along with the AoE damage that Mazir lane can put out. And despite how one-sided it feels right now with Duero being an absolute monster, it's really not that far apart. It's only a 300 plus gold difference here between Glacial Academy and Rawr Yordlez, not to mention the kill score fairly even. But Duero goes in and he finds Dobby. The heal comes out. Won't be enough to save him. No, it won't, but it might be enough to find Duero here. He's barely out, less than 10 health from the minions. Fang Rui going in, finds Mazir lane, but will go down to King Tyrus, and Ronin somehow surviving that huge burst there. And Duero has the Magi Soul Stealer completed. 14 stacks to his name here. And I Never Freeze now in for cleanup duty. He finds Ronin. He's now going on to King Tyrus. The Alpha Strike is about to come up here. And he's under turret, so he will be able to get this one. They don't find the turret. And Period diving under turret. What are you doing, man? You're taking neutral damage again. I Never Freeze popping off as he cleans up the survivors of that fight. They don't quite get the ace because Mazir and Dobby are back up. But that was a full 5 kills going the way of Rawr Yordlez here. And just what an incredibly messy game we have. Forget any sense of strategy. Who's skilling? Doesn't matter. What does your team comp do? Nobody cares. It's just straight up fighting here. And it is going to be Rawr Yordlez finally getting their second turret of the game at 17 minutes here. This is one of the slowest this is the slowest actually of the 3 games in terms of second turret takes here. The first turret did go down quite early with the side of Glacial Academy playing out that one quite well macro-wise with the Herald, with King Tyrus. They find that, and now Dobby running flat into Duero here, but Duero might actually go down, but the command shockwave goes wide into the bushes there. The ball was not where Ronin thought it was, and with that beautiful stopwatch, Duero able to survive this one here, and he's now got 20 stacks on that Soul Stealer. And he's going to look to build that Zhonya's Nyx, I think, because he needs to try and survive here when his initiates don't get him an insta-kill. And now we are actually seeing a proper fight break out into the mid lane. Fang Rui kiting around really, really well. Winter 07 already forced out quite early, was not able to provide the protection, but Mr. Sarooks, despite being down in lane, finds a kill onto Period. Can he find King Tyrus Nyx? No, he can't. The Facebreaker comes across and finds a double kill onto both Winter and Mr. Sarooks. Now, I Never Freeze coming in. He's looking to potentially come in and clean house, but instead he's just going to drop the Herald, get an easy turret into the outer lane here. They can't take it down fast enough. Duero is here, but no unstoppable force means that it will not be available for these fights. And he's actually just came back up, and he instantly finds Mazir lane. He's in smack in the middle of 3 though. No heal, no golden this time. He gets shut down. That's a 700 gold bounty going the way of King Tyrus, who's now 11-5-1, able to match up against Duero there, and that's a whole bunch of stacks gone. 24 stacks now suddenly cut down to 14 here, so Duero losing a bunch of damage for that one here. Now Never Freeze going into King Tyrus. I'm not sure this is the right decision to make as he gets his face just pummeled right off here. And Cloud Drake gonna get started up, not by choice, but by that Facebreaker by King Tyrus. And this should be an easy one here for Glacial Academy. But the Glacial Fissure does come across. Command Shockwave gonna tag Fang Rui, but no one else. No follow-up damage there. Period able to secure himself the Cloud Drake. So despite winning the fight, Rawr Yordlez does not secure that dragon instead. Now Duero here once again. And again, no unstoppable force, but none needed. Period, just taking a lot of damage. Duero has to be careful though. He's not going to win this 1v1. He's got the Zhonya's build though. He's going to go golden. His team's there to back him up. He'll pick up an assist and another 2 stacks on that Magi. He's almost back to that 20 stack mark here. And it looks like they're going to win this one and potentially back off. Duero is kind of low. Unstoppable force is available, and that is a Dobby under the turret who's extremely, extremely squishy. And they're going to look to find this one. Unstoppable Force goes in. He finds the kill. He finds turret aggro. And he finds the gray screen of death as well. Trading 1 for 1. It's Mazir picking up that one. Picking up the bounty as well. And they're just trying to cut under the turret. Can they do it? Mr. Cirx will go down finally. But he tanked that up for days. Fangrui able to find that one. And the bleed going to take Ronin down as well. So that's ultimately a 2 for 3 trade here. And a turret to boot as Fangrui survives that dive, and he finds himself a turret as well. And this sort of chaotic melee style game that we're seeing is really favoring the picks of Rawr Yordlez, because I Never Freeze able to slowly skill up, find himself kills. Whereas on the side of Glacial Academy, they don't want this. They want a more measured scaling for Dobby on the Vygar. They wanted more organized team fights here. And I Never Freeze able to just get a couple of cheap shots onto that turret. Has to be careful though, because Dobby has arrived as well. And between Dobby and Period, they've got more than enough CC to take down the Master Yi as well as damage. And if Duero was going to play this style, he should not have built that mid-ice. He's down to 12 stacks now from the earlier peak 24 stacks he had there. And now Winter going in. He gets a great Glacial Fissure. Only tags one, but they get in a bad position. And Duero coming in, but he can't find any of them. All of them just barely surviving there. He doesn't have quite enough burst. And did I say 12 stacks? Because now he's down to 2. And Medjai is not efficient when you've only got so few stacks on it. And Winter and Duero paying for their greed there, as they do give over free kills to the side of Glacial Academy. And that's great for Glacial, because that means that they can continue scaling up. 21 minutes and both teams are at about the 40k gold mark here. And I think both teams are starting to have to slow down their pace of the game. They'll have to start looking at objectives here, because as more and more turrets go down, there are 6 total turrets down right now. The map is starting to open up, and now Mr. Saruk's overstepping. He's pulling the Yordle special right now, where he's way too deep with no one to back him up. He goes down to 5 and doesn't really get anything in exchange for it. Instead, it's going to be a turret going down. It looked like it was it the mid lane turret there, going down to minions here for Rawr Yordle. So despite finding the kills, despite finding the picks, Rawr Yordle's minions are focused on the macro game, and they get themselves another turret here. And we might finally see a proper group up push here from the side of Rawr Yordlez. I think Duero recognizing that he doesn't have enough burst damage by himself. If I Never Freeze is there to Alpha Strike though, they can easily clean up these fights here. But we do see the Bansheesville coming out for Ronin, a very early Banshees. Has not even completed his boots. And I think that's a great pickup here for Ronin to negate the bulk of that burst here from Duero. And I Never Freeze going into Dobby though was, I think, a little over aggressive. We did see the Event Horizon come up, but he's going to be able to run away. No one can catch up to that Master Yi on the side of Glacial Academy, so they'll be just fine for now. But that is flashes blown for Pyria as well as I Never Freeze. And despite all the burst damage that Rawr Yordlez has, they don't have great siege potential. Kaisa, not the best of siegers here, is fairly short range, and you're into a Varus who can just constantly poke you. So Rawr Yordlez right now struggling to figure out what they want to do now that they've taken down the inner turrets, pardon me. And there's just not a lot of leeway for them to sort of find picks and catches. And I am expecting them to just focus on objectives instead. I Never Freeze is already preempting the dragon spawn, which will be coming up in about 5 seconds here. And this is their best chance to sort of find Glacial Academy outside their base in a potential catch position here. And they're going in. The Unstoppable Force only going to be able to find Mazira lane, but that's good enough. They absolutely burst him down. I Never Freeze going down very quickly after here. And the Banshees keeping Ronin alive in the back line. Mr. Saruk's running amok. He managed to find King Tyrus as well as Pyria. And unfortunately for Fangrui, Dobby is able to burst them down just barely, but they do manage to pull it off. And that's ultimately a 2 for 3, meaning that Dragon should go Rawr Yordlez's way. Sure, they don't manage to crack any more turrets, but they can just keep stacking these Drakes here, get themselves the Cloud Soul, gives them a bit more movement speed buff. Will be very nice for I Never Freeze if no one else. And Ronin just walking around the corner. And what does he meet? A guillotine to the face. And now Dobby looking for the kill. The Dark Matter doesn't land. And Mr. Sark's just barely, narrowly avoiding a death by the hairs on his chinny chin chin. And all of Rawr Yordle's extremely low here. And you're starting to see the limitations of this sort of random brawl comp here from the side of Rawr Yordle's, because it doesn't excel in anything really except for these big, massive, chaotic fights. They don't even win really team fights initially. They get to burst one person down, and beyond that, there's nothing else. Whereas you look over at the side of Glacial Academy, you can see that if they survive the initial burst, they have the ability to put out a lot of damage here. And so as long as they avoid getting caught in these narrow choke points here and allowing Mr. Saruk's I Never Freeze and Duero to just run amok in their backline, they'll be perfectly fine here in these team fights. So Glacial Academy still has a chance to come back for that reverse sweep right now. They are down 2 games, which means they can't afford to lose any games whatsoever. And now the Baron is in the eyes here of the side of Rawr Yordles. But I'm not 100% sure they win this on open ground, on flat open ground where they don't have a funnel point. So we'll have to see how this fight goes. But should they be able to win this, they won't be able to break those inhibitor turrets, which is the critical point here. Winter 07 clearing out that ward there. They did not put down a pink ward, so on the side of Glacial Academy, they're fully aware this is being done. They don't have vision, and Baron already down. Will get bursted down before they can do anything. And unfortunately, Ronin getting caught up by Mr. Sarks in that back line there, who was looking to just sort of power everything in the back line. The pull does not work, but he gets a lot of damage on to Mazir lane here. Fangray flashing in aggressively. Can they find him? No, Dobby no burst this time, and that's 3 down with Baron. This will probably be the game-ending push here from Rawr Yordles. King Tyrus doing the best he can on the opposite side of the map to try and punish and push in here. But it's not the right play, unfortunately. He's lost all the rest of his teammates. Perrier getting killed under his own turret there. I think he stepped back out. Might have been a mistake. And now it's going to be Rawr Yordles 5 strong, 4 strong, pushing into the enemy base. Despite his death, though, Perrier was able to buy enough time. The bulk of his team is respawning at this point, so it will just be the one inhibitor here. And Mr. Sarux might have overstayed. He's going in. He's trying to find Mazir lane, but he can't. A good showstopper to pull him further away. He goes down there. Mazir surviving the engage from Mr. Sarux, and that's going to be 1 Baron buff off the side of Rawr Yordles. And that might stall out the push actually for a little bit, but it is going to be the last inner turret going down for the side of Glacial Academy there. 7-4 the turret score. King Tyrus looking for the flank. Can he find it? Maybe he can, but at the expense of Ronin, because Duero saw Ronin. He saw the Orianna without a Banshee's Veil available and instantly just pops Ronin 100-0 there real quick. And he's actually managed to somehow stack his Medjais back up to 16 stacks for now. Did opt for the Liandries instead of the Death Cap, and we'll have to see what that last item is going to be. Potentially could be a Void Staff maybe on that Blasting Wand. We will find out. And for the side of Glacial Academy, actually, Perrier had a very unfortunate Game 2 as well. We saw how he's, Game 3, pardon me, as well. We saw how he struggled in Game 2 with the Trundle. Well, his Jax is not faring much better right now. So he goes 2-10-6 here. And to be fair to him, in Game 3, it's not so much a bad play from him and just inability to do anything. It's more just that he's kind of semi-squishy here. And just with the burst coming out, he can't get onto Fangray fast enough before he gets bursted down here. So his high death score is just very unfortunate. And we do see the Unstoppable Force coming over the wall. He lands on Mazir lane and Dobby, but unfortunately no additional damage to follow up. And a beautiful pull followed with that command shockwave finds 3. But Fangray is in the back line, and the Kaisa is just pumping out the DPS right now. King Tyrus surviving the Facebreaker, doing a lot of work, but it will not be enough. And it's going to be only Dobby left alive, but he's almost dead. I Never Freeze finally finding him. You can't run away from a master. He And that's going to be game. Ace goes down 44-29 in a half-hour game right here. That's more than 2 kills per minute. As described by Twitch chat, a banger of a game here. As Rawr Yordlez closes the series out 3-0 in one bloody hell of a fight. And I mean, as a play-by-play caster, this game was hella fun to cast, but as a color caster, this game hurt my eyes. I don't even know where to start here. There was no strategy, there was no tactics. It just came down to sheer mechanics and insanity here from both teams, and that's what you kind of expect when you see an AP fight locked in with a Master E jungle here. And Glacial Academy put up a solid rebuttal here. It's just unfortunately their picks weren't quite able to really sort of play defensively here. It was a good buy on the Banshees, but I would have liked to see a Veil of Night on Mazir lane early, rather, even if he's going on hit build. I know it's a lethality item, but just to negate the initial burst here from the side of Duero, because we saw the Banshees coming out for Dobby as well, and it served them extremely well. And just not having that means as soon as you see the Malphite, you're gonna get popped. And unfortunately for Glacial Academy, this is where their playoff run is going to be stopped here. And with this, I believe all Glacial teams are actually out of the playoffs at this point. Commiserations to the Glacial organization here. And for Rawr Yordlez, they punched their ticket to the finals, the first of the silver teams to make it there here. And we'll have to see later today, in a couple of hours, we're going to have Pendulum facing off against Hype Esports here as they look to decide who faces off against Rawr Yordlez in the finals. And with that, we're pretty much done this particular series. And we look forward to seeing all of you back in about, 2 hours here for the next game, which will be Hype Esports versus Pendulum Gaming. And a little bird has mentioned it should be a banger of a series as well, to use chat's words there. So definitely look forward to that one and hope to see you all in the second of the semifinals here for the Silver Division. So with that, I'll be signing off for now. Thanks for tuning in and hope to see you soon.